Okay, it is finally time to kick off the Overwatch League season for 2021. It has been pretty much 6 months. The longest break the Overwatch League has had since it was created, and we are finally getting back to some, albeit late, but finally getting back to some Overwatch. So, there are going to be 14 fixtures to kick off the season this weekend, spanning Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We are going to predict all of the fixtures. We are changing it this time around. This is no longer called the preview, it is called the predictions, because this is where the predictions are going to be. And it's going to be super interesting. I'll give you all the times, etc., and then we will do a reaction to it after the weekend has finished. But there's a lot of fixtures to get through, so it's time that we got to it. On Friday, April the 16th at 8 PM British Summer Time, which you can translate to whatever region you wish for. EST, I believe that is 3 PM. I am not totally sure though. This will see the Texas Derby. This will be the Houston Outlaws taking on the Dallas Fuel. So, Dallas Fuel, significant hit scan problems after the retirement of XC. Completely out of their control, although they should have probably, if they'd known about this, had a second hit scan. Houston, they have good DPS players. I think they will out DPS the Fuel, but Houston will probably get out tanked and out supported probably. So, although I think the Fuel still have significant hit scan issues, I think the Fuel will squeeze out, but it will be very close. It'll be a 3-2 for Fuel in my opinion. It would have been much more one-sided if they'd had XC, because Deep Mickery is so meta right now. He would have had a field day, which is a real shame for the Fuel. I think they will squeeze it out, but it's possible that Houston upset. It will be big if the Fuel do lose. However, we have to take into account the Fuel's problems. Anyway, moving on, after that at 9:30 we will see the Gladiators take on the San Francisco Shock. Now, this is a controversial one, my prediction for this, because Shock, last season they had a slow start to the season. They lost to both LA teams in the very first week. And all of a sudden we were like, oh boy. It was kind of a championship winning hangover, but they got over it pretty quickly. However, will they do it again this season? I think it's possible. With the changes that they've had in their roster, I think it's highly possible that the Shock do this again. So, I have gone for a 3-2 Gladiators win here. Possibly one of the only times that I might predict the Shock to lose this season. And I still think the Shock are going to be good overall and probably a better team than Gladiators. However, I think this first week is going to be a little tough for the Shock getting settled in. They have probably a significantly different style now with Glista and FD God, etc. So it's going to be a different looking Shock. It's going to be maybe a Shock that needs some time to settle. And against a team like the Glads, they could find themselves coming up a little short early on. So that's why I'm going for a Glads win. Now that is a controversial one, and I'm happy to take the L if Shock do end up winning that, to be quite honest. I just think that has a significant possibility of happening. Then, however, we move over to the East on the Saturday. This will be 10 AM BST, so that's, 5 AM in the morning in EST time zone? Something like that. It'll be the Guangzhou Charge taking on the Shanghai Dragons. Shanghai Dragons should win this one. I think the Charge can take a map, though. So I'm going to go for a 3-1 win for the Dragons. Dragons should have far too much in terms of sheer quality. But Charge, I think they can upset and take a few maps off of teams they wouldn't expect them to. I just don't think they're going to see out series against big teams. I don't think that's within the Charge's capability. But on certain maps, I think that will be okay. So that's why I think Charge are going to get a map. But I think it will be a 3-1 in the end for the Dragons. Then after that, 11:30, we will see the Valiant take on the Hunters. This should be no contest. The Valiant are trash. There's no other way of saying it. The Hunters should 3-0 this one. That's what I'm predicting. Hunters should have way too much quality for this Valiant roster, especially when it's playing on off roles for the entire season, which is just stupid. Then, at 1 PM my time, so that's what, 7 AM? 8 AM EST? 8 AM EST. This is the Fusion versus the Seoul Dynasty. This is an interesting one because, it can go either way. Fusion, there's going to be a lot of questions over how they're going to do because of Hopper and Toby and their visa issues, etc. I think that's going to be less of an issue than some people are expecting. I think Toby and Hopper will probably fit in quite well and not be too much of an issue. And I also probably think that, well, they probably have been ringing for for Philly Fusion for a little bit while they've had these issues recently. So I don't think they'll be completely unknown to each other coming into this Fusion side for the start of the league. It won't be as good as some other teams, but you know. However, Dynasty, I just don't trust to get the job done against a team like Fusion in a regular season. I just don't. Fusion is still going to have incredible DPS prowess, and they're still going to have a really good main tank and really good flex support that really kind of outweigh the Dynasty in a lot of respects, apart from perhaps Profit, although Fitz can hold his own. So, it'll be close, but I'm predicting a 3-2 win for Fusion. And a lot of people won't think that because of Fusion's visa issues, but I am going to stick my neck out and predict that one. Which is, yeah. That's going to be hotly contested. Then we have, at 5:30, that will be an encore match for the Philly Fusion and Seoul Dynasty for you guys in NA, which is pretty cool. That's a bit about midday in EST time zone. Toronto Defiant Vancouver is the one after that one. That's at 8 PM BST, so that's about 3 PM EST, something like that. Titans, they don't have the quality to compete with the Defiant. However, this is a grudge match. This is the Canadian derby. This is the Canadian showdown. So it's going to have a lot of fight to it. And Titans have something that Defiant don't have. Canadian blood running through them. Shredlock and Rolf. So Titans are going to be up for this. They're going to fight this tooth and nail. Which is why I think, and Defiant aren't, in my opinion, a completely stable team to go 3-0ing a lot of people. So that's why I think Titans are going to nick a cheeky map. But I think it will be a 3-1 for the Defiant in the end. So, yeah. I do trust the Defiant to get the job done. Although, it won't be as easy as some people would perhaps predict, in my opinion. Then after that, at 9:30 PM EST, BST I should say, we will have Atlanta Reign taking on the Florida Mayhem. I think the Florida Mayhem just have too much quality for the Atlanta Reign. The DPS may be fairly even, but the rest of the roles are just pretty one-sided in favor of the Mayhem. I think Reign will take a map. I think they've got really good DPS to try and take a map off of the Mayhem. If anything, it could be Control, because that's always a weird map type. And then we see the Mayhem roll out with a 3-1 win. That's what I think. Mayhem should get 2 wins this week, though. Then we see the Dallas Fuel taking on the Los Angeles Gladiators at what is a typo, I believe, on the Overwatch League website, because I believe it's actually the 17th, not the 18th, at 11 PM, I should say, at BST. This is not the Fuel's day. Without a really significant hit scam player, Birdring is probably going to run riot for the Gladiators on that McCree. So I am expecting a 3-1 win for the Gladiators. I do think Fuel might squeeze one out, and I think it most likely, again, would be Control. But I do think the Gladiators are going to have way too much quality for the Fuel. Way too much with the Fuel's problems right now. So that is kind of where they're at. That's unfortunate for the Fuel, because I think it would have been closer if they'd had XZ. But again, that's kind of got to be prepared. You know? So then we move on to the East region for Sunday, the 18th of April. This will be at 10 AM BST, so 5 AM early doors for you EST people, I think. Guangzhou Charge taking on the Seoul Dynasty. This should be a Seoul Dynasty win. I still think the Charge are going to take a map because, well, it's just Charge. I've just got this feeling that Charge are going to take a lot of odd maps here and there. And they're not going to be completely... they're not going to be completely run over. They're not going to be completely rubbish. They're not going to be high tier, but they're going to be a thorn in the side of big teams. But they're not going to get the wins. So that's why I think they're going to take weird maps off of good teams like Seoul and Shanghai. But Seoul will end up 3-1 winners in my opinion. And yeah, Profit and that, as long as we don't go seeing like Profit subbed out a lot, then the Seoul Dynasty should be fine. Then after that, at 11:30 AM BST, we have the Chengdu Hunters taking on the Shanghai Dragons. This one has a little bit of leeway in it, actually, because I think the Chengdu Hunters can be very, very good. But I also think they're going to lack that little bit of quality that's going to take them to the very highest echelons of the East region. So they're going up against the team that is touted to be one of the best, if not the best, in the East region. That's why I think they're going to come up short, because I think Shanghai have got more raw quality. However, Chengdu can go toe-to-toe with Shanghai. I believe that. I'm predicting a 3-1 for the Dragons. I think it's a little bit too early for Chengdu to to go perhaps even winning the series, but I do think Chengdu have the ability to do it, which is a big move from last season in some respects, apart from when the meta sort of just hit them perfectly. So I think there's potential for this series to be quite close, but I do think it'll be a 3-1 for the Dragons in the end. At 1 PM BST, we will see the Philadelphia Fusion take on the Valiant, the Immortals Valiant. Smile. So this is just going to be very easy for the Fusion. It shouldn't be anything else. It should be a 3-0 for the Fusion. Go next. Valiant should not be picking up a map this weekend. They shouldn't really be picking up many maps at all in this season, if any. Because, well, they're a terrible team. Let's be honest. Moving on from that, and we move back to the West region for our last batch of fixtures. And this starts with, at 8 PM BST on the Sunday, Houston Outlaws taking on the San Francisco Shock. I think the slow start... this is really difficult to say. I think the slow start continues for the Shock. However, it won't stop them getting a win over the Houston Outlaws. They will just be too good. So I think this will be a 3-1 for the San Francisco Shock, dropping a map again, likely, possibly Control. That wouldn't be too much of a surprise. But again, I think that will be a win for the Shock, because I think they'll just have too much power. And the Outlaws won't be able to compete. But now we move on to the second to last fixture. This is at 9:30 PM BST. This will be Florida Mayhem taking on the Vancouver Titans. This should be much more one-sided than the Toronto Titans game. The Mayhem should have way too much quality for the Vancouver Titans, and I think they will sweep this 3-0. I'd be very surprised if they didn't. Titans could take a map in a really weird circumstance, but I don't see the carry like Shockwave this season, apart from Teru, and I'm not sure whether he's going to hit the heights that Shockwave did last season. That's a very big question mark, and I think it's too early to be saying, no, they're going to take this map because they have Teru and he's going to pop off. So, yeah, that's where I stand with that. And the last match of the weekend will be at 11 PM. I think it's still on the Sunday, even though it's a typo on the Overwatch League website. That's 11 PM BST. This will be Toronto Defiant versus Atlanta Reign. I think this could be the closest match of the weekend. Really, really close. This could go either way. I really don't know. It depends very much on how Toronto play against Titans. If they get taken close by Titans, I start getting real worried for Toronto. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt for now and say they get a 3-2 win over the Reign. The Reign will make this close, and I could see the Reign taking it. So, oof, that's a really difficult one. But, yeah, this should be interesting, but I think the Defiant will edge it out. That is the hardest one to call in this entire weekend, in my opinion. Hardest one to call. But those are the 14 fixtures for this weekend of play. It is missing some influential figures. We're not seeing any of the European teams yet. We're not seeing Boston this weekend. So I think we're missing the Spark as well. They're not playing this weekend either, nor the New York Excelsior. There's some noticeable absentees, but we will see them next weekend, obviously. That's going to kick off a massive weekend of fixtures next weekend as well. We are back with the Overwatch League for 2021, running all the way until August. Fun to be back, isn't it? Keep an eye on the power rankings. So, thing to let you know, these predictions come out early on my Discord server in a certain channel that is now called My Match Predictions. They come out a little bit earlier. The first day's worth of predictions come out a little bit earlier on that Discord. So if you want to know them, do get on that Discord and you will see them a little bit early. And we'll have a big discussion about them because it's always really interesting. But all of the social medias are linked below for Illusion Gaming and myself. That's starting to become an additional part of the outro. I've realized that. Make sure you hit the bell and subscribe if you want to make sure you are going to keep up with all these videos coming out. There is some new content coming your way because obviously we are through the team previews and we are heading into the Overwatch League season. The contenders may come back, you never know. Anyway, I'm going to stop teasing stuff. I'm going to leave it here. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you'd like to give a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. See you then!